Trust is not something you are. It is something you decide. Under uncertainty, with real downside. The moment you trust someone, you are not rating their character. You are granting reliance. You are letting their future choices reach into your outcome. That could be a colleague representing you in a meeting. It could be a friend holding private information. It could be a vendor delivering after payment.
It could be a leader using authority without turning it into personal advantage.
Seen that way, every trust decision has three moving parts. First is reliance, what you are allowing them to affect. Second is risk, what can be lost, damaged, delayed, distorted, or exposed. Third is verification, what evidence can reduce uncertainty before or after you commit. A common mistake is treating trust as binary, trust or distrust, open or closed, all in or all out. Binary trust forces you to apply the same permission to very different risks. It makes careful people look cold. It makes careless people look brave. And it quietly pushes you toward overcommitting or over-withdrawing, with nothing in between. A better model is calibrated trust. Calibrated trust separates the person from the permission. You can trust someone with a small task and not a large one. You can trust someone's competence and not their discretion. You can trust their intention and still verify their process. You can like someone and still decline to grant access. Verification is not the opposite of trust. Verification is how trust becomes durable. If trust cannot survive proportionate verification, it was never strong trust. It was untested dependence. To calibrate well, stop analyzing the whole person. Analyze the domain. Nobody is trustworthy in every domain. Someone can be generous with time and careless with money. They can be precise with technical work and unreliable with deadlines. They can be loyal in private and performative in public. They can be honest when pressure is low and evasive when status is threatened. So name the domain you are betting on. Are you testing competence? Meaning, can they do what they claim? Or reliability? Meaning, do they deliver when they said they would? Maybe it is discretion, meaning, do they protect sensitive information? Sometimes the domain is candor, meaning, do they report inconvenient facts? Or alignment, meaning, do they act within the shared purpose when unsupervised? Or judgment, meaning, do they choose proportionate actions under ambiguity? Or repair, meaning, do they acknowledge failure, correct it, and change the process? Each domain needs different evidence. Competence shows up in work samples, demonstrations, prior outcomes, and the ability to explain trade-offs. Discretion shows up in how they handle other people's information, not yours. Candor shows up when they have an incentive to hide, soften, or redirect. And they still give you the accurate version. Notice a pattern here. The highest value evidence usually appears under friction. Low friction behavior is helpful, but incomplete. Trust becomes real when pressure enters the system. Pressure reveals the operating model. Once you name the domain, you still need to classify the risk. Risk is not only the probability of failure, risk is the cost of being wrong. One dimension is reversibility. If a decision can be undone cleanly, you can run smaller experiments. If it cannot be undone, verification must happen before commitment. Confidential disclosure is low reversibility. Signing authority is low reversibility. Public endorsement is low reversibility. Introducing someone to a vulnerable person is low reversibility. You do not try it and see when rollback is impossible. Another dimension is blast radius. Some trust failures mostly hurt you. Others hit your team, your family, your clients, your company, or people who depend on you. As blast radius grows, the decision stops being about personal comfort. You can choose to absorb risk for yourself. You are not automatically entitled to impose that same risk on others. A third dimension is observability. Some failures are visible fast. A missed deadline is obvious. Other failures stay hidden until damage compounds. A confidentiality breach may never be fully observable. Low observability demands stronger front-end verification, because waiting for feedback is waiting for harm. The fourth dimension is incentive conflict. Trust gets more fragile when the other party benefits from withholding, exaggerating, delaying, or reframing information. Incentive conflict does not prove bad intent. It simply raises the verification requirement. When incentives are misaligned, you need more structure, not more reassurance. Now, how do you actually gather evidence without turning every interaction into an interrogation? Pay attention to signal types. Verbal signals are what someone says: promises, explanations, commitments, disclosures, refusals, admissions, assurances. Nonverbal signals are how they behave while saying it: hesitation, interruption patterns, visible discomfort, calmness under challenge, or an oddly over-controlled delivery. Contextual signals come from the surrounding structure. Who is watching? What incentives are in play? What roles and obligations exist? How much power asymmetry is present? Whether there is time pressure? Whether the setting is public or private? Then there are temporal signals, which are behaviors over time: consistency, drift, correction after feedback, repeated delay, escalating requests, the match or mismatch between promise and delivery. In trust decisions, temporal signals usually outrank verbal signals. A sincere promise is data. A fulfilled promise under pressure is stronger data. A repeated pattern is stronger than both. A dangerous error is letting a high-emotion verbal signal override conflicting temporal evidence. You can also watch for recurring interaction archetypes, because they predict where verification will be resisted. One is the overpromiser. They give confident commitments before clarifying scope, constraints, or trade-offs. Often they are optimizing for approval, momentum, or short-term relief from pressure. The response is not to punish enthusiasm. The response is to convert the promise into specifics. Define the deliverable, the deadline, the owner, the dependencies, and a visible checkpoint. Another is the quietly reliable operator. They make modest commitments and fulfill them without demanding attention. The trap here is exploitation. Because they are dependable, everyone loads them up. A better move is to increase trust gradually by domain, and not overload them simply because they rarely drop things. Watch for the access seeker. They request sensitive information, authority, introductions, or exceptions before earning proportional trust. They may be optimizing for speed, leverage, convenience, or proximity to resources. Your protocol is to slow escalation. Define the requested access precisely. Require evidence or safeguards before granting it. Then there is the deflector. When you ask verification questions, they redirect toward emotion, loyalty, urgency, or your character. They are optimizing to avoid inspection, preserve image, or escape accountability. The move here is simple and calm. Return to the concrete request. What is the claim? What is the evidence? What is the risk? What decision is being made? And what consequence follows? The transparent operator is the opposite. They make assumptions, constraints, conflicts, and uncertainty visible before being challenged. They are optimizing for durable cooperation and reviewable decisions. Reward that transparency with appropriate trust escalation, while still matching access to risk. Transparency is a strength, not a substitute for controls. Pay attention to the status tester too. They frame verification as disrespect, disloyalty, or lack of confidence. They are optimizing for hierarchy, control, or exemption from normal scrutiny. A useful sentence in that moment is, "I can respect you and still need this checked because the risk is shared." Finally, notice the repair-capable person. They disclose failure early. They accept ownership. They propose correction, and they change the process. They are optimizing for restored function over protected ego. When evidence supports it, allow bounded re-entry. Do not erase the failure data, but do include the repair data. When stakes rise, a simple internal decision tree helps you avoid getting pushed around. First ask, did the request increase your reliance on their future behavior? If not, keep normal interaction. If yes, continue. Next ask, is the potential harm low, reversible, and limited to you? If yes, run a small trust experiment with a clear checkpoint. If no, move on. Then ask, is the trust domain specific and named? If it is vague, define it. Competence, reliability, discretion, candor, alignment, judgment, or repair. Ambiguous trust is how people smuggle in extra permissions. Now ask, is there evidence in that domain under relevant pressure? If there is, match access to evidence strength and add safeguards. If there is not, request verification before escalating. Then watch their response to verification. Clarity and cooperation are good signs. You can grant bounded trust with scope, checkpoint, and rollback. If they react as if verification is an accusation or a loyalty test, do not escalate trust. Offer a narrower path with explicit safeguards or delay the decision. After you grant bounded trust, check whether behavior matched the commitment. If yes, increase trust gradually within the same domain. If no, activate repair, disclose failure, assign ownership, reduce access, and require a process change before future escalation. Power changes everything here. When power is unequal, just trust me can function less as reassurance and more as pressure. A senior leader asking a junior employee for unverified trust is not the same as a peer asking a peer. Power changes the cost of saying no. It changes who bears the downside. It changes how visible failure becomes. So when a powerful actor requests unverified trust, look for safeguards: documentation, reviewability, appeal paths, shared visibility, limits on discretion. When those safeguards are absent, the decision depends too heavily on personal character and too little on structure. If you are the person with more power, do not demand trust as proof of loyalty. Make verification easy. Define scope. Invite review. Put important commitments in durable form. Power that refuses verification teaches others to manage appearances instead of risks. A few failure modes are worth keeping close because they are common. One is premature global trust, trusting the whole person everywhere because one area went well. The recovery is to rescope by domain and reset escalation to evidence in that domain. Another is verification avoidance to preserve comfort. You skip the check because it feels awkward. The fix is to name the stake, ask for the minimum evidence or safeguard, and treat discomfort as a cost, not a decision rule. A third is treating verification as accusation. The repair is to reframe verification as risk management, state how you will update based on evidence, and keep the request proportional to the stakes. A fourth is ignoring temporal evidence. The correction is to review repeated behavior across time, weight patterns above assurances, and update trust based on fulfilled or missed commitments. And a quiet but important one is granting high-stakes trust without a repair path. Before you commit, define ownership, rollback, disclosure rules, and consequences. Repair is part of the design, not an afterthought. The practical takeaway is simple. Be precise, not suspicious. Name the domain, measure the risk, verify proportionally, escalate in steps, update by behavior over time, because durable trust is built when reliance, evidence, and accountability move together.